Fred Hoyle once said, "The universe is only an hour's drive away by car, if one could drive straight up." So space is closer than you might think. But flying there with the space shuttle costs hundreds of millions of dollars. For every kilogram, an enormous amount of fuel is required, which in turn makes the shuttle heavier and again requires more fuel. But there is a concept that would make transport incredibly simple and cheap: the space elevator. A cable is stretched up into space, along which a gondola can travel up and down, and it's more realistic than it sounds. Both NASA and private companies are working on it. But where do we anchor the cable? The International Space Station would seem like the obvious choice, but it orbits the Earth too quickly. What we need is a geostationary satellite. That means it revolves around the Earth at exactly the same rate as the Earth rotates, so it always remains above the same point. That's nothing new. But such an orbit is only possible much farther out in space, at about 36,000 kilometers. How is the elevator powered? A power cable inside the tether would be useless, because over such a length, the cable itself would become too much of a resistance for the current. One option would be to attach solar cells to the bottom of the gondola and beam them with lasers from Earth. But the higher the elevator goes, the less of that radiation remains. At the same time, however, the sun's radiation from above becomes ever stronger, so additional upward-facing solar panels would be advantageous. How about the material of the cable? This is the only real problem. A 36,000-kilometer-long cable would break under its own weight with all currently available materials. We need a cable that is light yet relatively strong. One solution would be carbon nanotubes. They are largely hollow, yet still have an extremely tear-resistant structure. So far, however, only short pieces of them have been produced. If we can build long stretches out of them, the hardest part will be solved. Such a means of transport would raise our civilization to an entirely new level. It would be like globalization, only between Earth and space. Space would move a step closer, become more tangible. The elevator could be used for cheaper experiments in zero gravity or as a launch platform for space missions, for space tourism, or for radioactive waste that could simply be shot into the sun. I'll see you in the next video.